a producer said to me, "Take your clothes off." And I said no.
Lady Gaga, an icon, singer, and songwriter known for powerful hits like Born This Way and Poker Face, has used her platform for more than music. Beyond the fame and bold performances, she has spoken openly about living with major depressive disorder. Gaga has shared that her success exists alongside deep personal pain, including struggles with anxiety, PTSD, and a psychotic break. She describes depression and anxiety not as passing phases but as daily realities shaped by trauma, and she has bravely opened up about her experiences with self harm. Through her honesty, she challenges the silence surrounding mental illness and reminds us that even the most celebrated figures can be fighting invisible battles.
Following a sexual assault at age 19, Lady Gaga experienced long-term trauma that later resurfaced as a psychotic break. This trauma changed how her brain functions with amygdala, the brain's fear center overriding the prefrontal cortex, which controls rational thinking. This kept her brain in a constant state of threat. She was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition that caused widespread pain and fatigue. Living with constant physical pain significantly worsened her depression and anxiety. Gaga has described her condition as a cyclone of anxiety, PTSD, and panic, sending her nervous system into overdrive and causing severe physical symptoms. Together, trauma, chronic pain, and disrupted brain chemistry contributed to neurotransmitter imbalances, highlighting the biological foundations of her major depressive disorder.
Lady Gaga's major depressive disorder significantly influenced her behavior and coping patterns. During period of intense emotional distress, she experienced disassociation and panic attacks, which sometimes left her withdrawn and unable to function. She has also admitted to engaging in self-harm in the past as a way to release overwhelming internal pain, reflecting maladaptive coping behaviors often associated with severe depression. Her depression also affected her sense of identity. Gaga described developing a hostile relationship with her public persona, stating that waking up and remembering she was Lady Gaga would trigger feelings of sadness and emotional exhaustion. This internal conflict deepened her depressive symptoms.
Lady Gaga's major depressive disorder deeply affected both her emotions and thinking. Emotionally, she experienced persistent sadness and anxiety, often describing her depression as a daily struggle. Early trauma, including sexual assault, added layers of intense emotional pain, and she sometimes saw her public persona as a threat to her well being, creating internal conflict and emotional exhaustion. Periods of panic, dissociation, and overwhelming anxiety also showed difficulty regulating her emotions. Cognitively, Gaga faced negative thought patterns, self doubt, and harsh self criticism. Her sense of identity was challenged by the gap between her private self and public persona. She often ruminated on past trauma and stress, reinforcing her depressive symptoms, and at times, her emotional distress impaired focus and decision making, making everyday functioning a challenge. Together, these emotional and cognitive influences show how deeply depression can affect both the heart and mind.
Social factors play a significant role in Lady Gaga's major depressive disorder. From an early age, her childhood and adolescence were shaped by intense focus on music and performance, which limited typical social experiences and exposed her to high expectations and pressure. The sexual assault at the age 19 likely caused deep emotional trauma that may have had long-term psychological effects. Difficult relationships later on may have increased her stress and feelings of loneliness. Her fame added another layer of social strain. Constant public scrutiny and media attention created anxiety and pressure, and she often struggled to separate her private self from her public persona as Lady Gaga, which intensified her emotional distress.
Cultural factors likely contributed to Lady Gaga's experience with major depressive disorder. Growing up in a performance driven culture that values fame, success, and appearance may have increased pressure to maintain a perfect public image. The entertainment industry's emphasis on perfectionism and constant productivity can lead to chronic stress and emotional exhaustion. Additionally, mental health stigma may have made it harder to openly discuss her struggles, further intensifying her depressive symptoms.
Lady Gaga's major depressive disorder has been shaped by a combination of biological, behavioral, emotional, cognitive, and social factors. From trauma to chronic pain to negative thought patterns and intense public scrutiny. Despite these challenges, she has actively worked to manage her mental health. Gaga uses therapy, including the dialectical behavioral therapy, to develop healthier coping skills, practices radical acceptance to acknowledge her struggles without shame, and channels her emotions into creativity, such as producing music like Chromatica, which helps her process pain and lift the fog of depression. She finds strength in advocacy and social connection, founding the Born This Way Foundation to support others and reduce stigma around mental health treatment. Through therapy, creative expression, and meaningful social engagement, Lady Gaga demonstrates that while depression can be powerful and complex, recovery and coping are possible with intentional strategies, support, and self-acceptance.